Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the top 10 teams for the Championship Cup EUIC edition. This cup is going to be available for 2 weeks straight now. We're very likely going to have another update video in the middle of it. But today we're going to take a look at 10 teams that I think are going to be fantastic for the Championship Series Cup. So if you enjoy those videos, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to this channel. It is free, helps me out a ton. And let's take a look real quick first at the meta. Where are we going to take a look first at what is allowed and what is not allowed. What is allowed is going to be a bug, dark, normal and a dragon type Pokemon, but what is not allowed is going to be fighting, flying and steel type Pokemon, as well as Wigglytuff, Chansey, Crustle, Diggersby, Ribombee for whatever reason, a Raccoonet, a Turtonator, Morgrem, as well as a Morpeko. So, kinda interesting. Also, of course, all allowed are going to be a legendary Pokemon, mythical Pokemon, Mega Pokemon, Ultra Beast, which, basically everything that's just normal is going to be allowed. And the following Pokemon are also allowed, even though they're not fitting the criteria, which is going to be Seaking, Politoed, Milotic, as well as Frostless. So 1 Ice and 3 pure Water type Pokemon are also allowed for this meta, which is quite interesting, isn't it? So, how does the meta actually look like? We're going to take a look at it here right now. We're going to have the Spidops as the main Pokemon, and people are scared of Spidops. And we're going to talk a little bit about why I feel like it's going to be a bit worse than people think, but also why it's still going to be a very strong Pokemon. Otherwise, you're going to have your Miltank, Licky, the Ariados, we have the Dunsparce, we have the Dunsparce, very different Pokemon. Funnily enough, that is actually true in this case. Sableye, Goliathspot, we have the Dragalge, very interesting Pokemon as well. We're going to have some teams with this Pokemon. Kingdra, we have some teams with. Kricketune, I actually opted to not showcase here today. Kricketune has kind of funny coverage with Aerial Ace, which is going to allow you to hit Pokemon like Ariados and Spidops, super effective damage. We're going to have the Dapple, which is actually quite solid for this meta because you have a lot of normal type Pokemon before that. And then we have Grimmsnarl, a Pokemon that I think is actually going to be absolutely fantastic, and it's going to be by far actually the most common Pokemon in my top teams here today. But let's take a look at the second page, where we're going to have here the Seaking, which is like one of those Pokemon that got added in extra, which is the only one that's added in extra from the, up here so far at least. We're going to have the Dragonair, the Chatterbug with a Bug Bite, funnily enough. We're going to have the Pinsir Shadow, where we have a team as well, at rank number 19. We have the Drampa, which is going to be interesting with Fly, allowing you to hit Spidops, super effective damage. We have Beedrill with a Bug Bite, which is a legacy move, which is apparently very solid on it. And otherwise, like Arctiplex, Parasect for whatever reason. Interesting meta, isn't it? So what we can kind of see here already is there are going to be a lot of Bug-type Pokemon, a few Dark-type Pokemon, quite a lot of Normal-type Pokemon, and the Odd Dragon, I guess, kind of sneaks in there as well. So what's going to be the meta? Let's take a look here real quick at one of the biggest meta teams. This is something that you're going to see basically all the time. I would assume that Spidops double normal is going to be absolutely everywhere. You can have a double in the back. You can have Licky and Miltank together in the back. You can have Grimmsnarl in the back. You can have the Kingdra. Kingdra has the benefit of being good against Fire-type Pokemon, which are tough for Spidops to deal with. But then again, what Fire-type Pokemon are even allowed here right now? We're going to take a look at this one a little bit later. But let's take a look here real quick. This is going to be basically a team that doesn't have a hard weakness. There are basically no fighting type Pokemon that are viable in this meta. There are really no fighting type Pokemon that you can have, because you saw already earlier, fighting types are actually fully banned from this meta. So the only thing that you can have are pseudo fighting type Pokemon. So Pokemon that are not fighting type themselves, but run fighting type moves, which is, for example, why Dapple is so strong. And Dapple is so strong because there are no fighting types allowed, but you are basically practically a fighting type while having fighting type fast move damage. But you see here already what Grimmsnarl can do. By the way, if you're wondering, we have Morgrem. Morgrem is actually one of those banned Pokemon from what I know, so you actually have to go for Grimmsnarl for this one. Morgrem is the better Pokemon for the Great League, generally speaking, but Morgrem is banned, Grimmsnarl isn't, and Grimmsnarl is a fantastic Pokemon to play. Here is the one fire type that I feel like is worth using. It's honestly not a lot of fire types are allowed, because most of the good ones are banned, with the flying and fighting typing, for example, being not allowed. Pokemon like Blaziken or the Talonflame, which are kind of dominating, are kind of gone, as the fire type itself is not one of the allowed types directly. You have to kind of utilize ones that have the secondary type, one of the allowed types, which we have with Litleo being a normal type Pokemon. It is allowed to be used, and with that, you're going to have here one of the best answers to all of those bug type Pokemon. And we have an anti-meta team here for the second slot. We have the Litleo, we have the Kingdra. I feel like that the double makes a lot of sense here as well. Why? Because what you need to have here is you need to have an answer for Licky and the Miltank, which I feel like are going to be everywhere. I think they're going to be a bit more problematic than actually the Spidops. Spidops, I feel like Spidops, yes, it's going to be a very strong Pokemon. Don't get me wrong, it's going to be super annoying to get rid of. Yes, it's going to be absolutely everywhere. But I feel like it's the same you can say about all of the rollout users. I think that's the exact same there. I don't think there's a difference. Rollout users just don't have an answer at all, other than Obstagoon, which you have a different team later on as well. Obstagoon, I have two teams because I feel like it's such an interesting Pokemon for this meta because of what it can do. But here we have a Litleo, Kingdra, Grimmsnarl. Just in case there's a fairy type in the back as well. There are some fairy types, I think, allowed. Then you're going to be able to use that as well. Yeah, we have Grimmsnarl, for example, as a fairy type. You're going to be able to use your Litleo in order to counter that. I do actually think that this team is better though with the double because you're going to be less weak to other Grimmsnarls. I didn't put Grimmsnarl as like one of the difficult matchups here because at the end of the day you have it on your own team, like you're neutral with all of your Pokemon. It's gonna be alright. Alright, another anti-meta team is going to be Crocodile. And this is something I just kind of wanted to showcase. Yeah, I actually focused a little bit more on the anti-meta aspect in the beginning. We have the lead that's going to be good against the bug-type Pokemon. We have the Saysop to bait them out. The Grimmsnarl, it's actually still neutral thanks to the fairy typing. It can bait out bug types, but it actually can still hit back. And then we have the Crocodile in the back, which is going to not really want to see the bug types, but it's actually going to be very solid against Pokemon like Licky. Against Miltank, you have to be a bit mindful of the Ice Beam, but you're going to be able to have the super effective Brick Break against those normal type Pokemon, which I kind of want to utilize here. That's why I have Crocodile on this team. I think it's an underrated Pokemon for this meta. And you're here to see also some teams that you maybe wouldn't see anywhere else, and this is definitely one of them. Okay, let's take a look at Kleavor. And again, Grimmsnarl team here. Dano is an alternative option here, but Grimmsnarl has just the fairy typing, which makes it so much better. It's good against all the Dragon type Pokemon of this meta. It is going to be able to take only neutral damage from the bug typing. This is why this is so good. Like Grimmsnarl is actually really good for this meta. It's so good, and like there's no alternative basically towards it directly. Here Dano is okay, but it doesn't do the same. Why Kleavor? Kleavor actually has access to Rock Slide, Fear kinda extra. It's a very fast moveset, all stab. The other bug and rock type with Crustle, which is straight up better than Kleavor, is banned. So like you're kind of forced to go for Kleavor. And Kleavor is going to be able to knock out the Spidops, which is kind of cool. And still hit other Pokemon for neutral damage with the Exeter. So that's why Kleavor actually has some potential in this meta. But this is kind of it for this one. Let's take a look at the next one. Let's take a look here. Team number 5, we are going to take a look at the, Tyranitar. Tyranitar is also a Pokemon that you most likely don't see in a lot of top team videos, because I feel like a lot of people are kind of looking over this one here, because I do feel like it's very, very strong, but people don't really expect it too much. It's going to be able to resist Body Slam, which is very important for the matchup against the normal types. It's going to be able to do a lot of damage with Dragon Breath and Brutal Swing against a lot of the current meta Pokemon. And yes, it's going to be weak against those bug-type Pokemon, but for that we're going to have here the Dragalgea's Saysop, which is perfect, which is going to be able to resist the bug-typing from the opponents. And we are going to have here also the Ariados in the back, which is going to be one of those Pokemon as well that you're going to have a great time against, because like Ariados is going to be able to beat most of the other bug types, as you're going to be able to resist bug with this bug type. So like you have a bug that resists bug. This is the same reason why we have here the other bug and poison type in the back here, the Venomoth, which is also very interesting by the way for this meta, as it has Poison Fang as well, which kind of speeds things up quite a bit, as well as it's going to have Psywave, which is going to be quite unique for the meta as well, which allows you to hit something like an Ariados for super effective damage. Alright, we have to take a look a little bit at the Pokemon that kind of got added in extra on top. I'm not going to take a look at Milotic. I feel like that makes zero sense. But I will take a look at the Seaking here. This Pokemon is actually quite interesting. You want to run Mega Horn, and you actually do really want to run Mega Horn, because it's going to be the best kind of coverage move for this Pokemon. The thing is, I would not recommend you to get rid of Drill Run Forward because Drill Run is a legacy move. But if you haven't built your Seaking yet, that might be the meta where you want to start building your Seaking and just use a 1 Elite TM on the Ice event because it's going to be worth it. As you can see here, Seaking is actually going to have a very solid matchup, and there's going to be even a better Seaking team later on. Stay tuned for that one. But this team is definitely solid as well. I want to just see what Dragonair can do here. And Dragonair Seaking is kind of a good combination because you have water type damage on the lead, but then you have actually a water type that you can sub into, which maybe throws some people kind of guard. Let's take a look here though at team number 7. Where are we going to have the better Seaking team? This is, in my opinion, the better Seaking team. This is also having Frostless in it. Again, a Pokemon that just got added onto it. And Frost is going to be quite interesting because it's going to be resisting the bug typing, but it's going to be weak against Miltank and the Licky Licky. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a tougher one there. But there's no real answer to, by the way, Licky Licky and Miltank anyway. So like here, we're going to have the Frostless, Seaking, the Grimmsnarl. We can also have Obstagoon in the back as well. I feel like for this team, that would make a lot of sense as well forward. You're going to be just a bit more weaker even against other Grimmsnarls. This is the thing as well. I'm not sure on how many people are going to cop on Grimmsnarl. Most likely a lot, especially after seeing this video. But Grimmsnarl is such a unique place basically for this meta that there's nothing really that can do the same things as this Pokemon. And so, yeah, I would just recommend you to run Grimmsnarl if you can. But this looks like a very solid team here. Bit weak too, though our Tyranta, which is kind of funny. But we can move on to team number 8. Honestly, I enjoy this one. I honestly enjoy this one. Yes, they're on paper, maybe a few Pokemon like Cleaver. But like, honestly, you can deal with Cleaver. I guess Cleaver is actually quite a bit of an awkward one. I should put Cleaver into a difficult matchup. That kind of deserves to be in there. But Obstagoon is honestly an interesting Pokemon here. Obstagoon is going to be able to beat all of the normal type Pokemon. But also, what we have here is a team that tries to punish. We're going to have Frostless, which got buffed with the Powder Snow as well. Shadow Ball this season, going to be a bit stronger, but we have here now the Avalanche on it, which will allow you to hit still even the normal type Pokemon for some nice neutral hard-hitting damage just to get them kind of low, because I don't want to roll out against my Ariados, which is functioning here as a closer, which is going to be the Pokemon that also resists the bug type damage, which hopefully allows it to beat the Spidops. There's one big issue though with Spidops, which is what people are scared of, that every answer to Spidops is going to be part weak to Rock Tomb. And that is kind of the issue of this meta, because a lot of them are other bug types, or here in this case a Frostless. So yeah, you have to be a bit mindful towards that one. It's a bit more awkward, but it's a solid team here to run. And let's move on to team number 9. We're going to have the Kingdra, the Caesar with Pinsir, and the Cleaver in the back. Pinsir is interesting because you have access to close combat. I actually do think that Superpower might be even more interesting because you're going to get there faster, which allows you to just outspeed Pokemon, while close combat has the benefit of not dropping your own attack. I do feel like that Superpower might be a bit more interesting even on the Pinsir, but that's just being said there. But Pinsir itself is kind of funny because you have here a bug type that can one-shot any normal type Pokemon. And that's quite unique. Like, you don't have any other bug type that can really do that. So this is kind of a very interesting one. Again, here it's like a pseudo fighter, a Pokemon that has fighting type coverage, does a lot of fighting type damage. Oops, sorry, but still going to be able to do quite well against the meta. Kingdra on the lead is here just to counter potential fire type Pokemon. Just very neutral generally as well, which can help out. But yeah, let's move on to team number 10, which is actually one of my favorite teams, because it's a team around the Politoed. Politoed is a Pokemon that shouldn't be really allowed here, but it's just got added in at the end. And I feel like a lot of people don't really look at this Pokemon right because they have the wrong moveset. I am a firm believer that Bubble Weather Ball Politoed is actually quite broken, and while it doesn't look like it on paper, I do think it's going to be quite solid to run in the Go Battle League. Now what we have here is an anti-Dragon type, because think about it, Kingdra you can't really deal with. Then we have Dunsparce as our Say-Sub, which has access to Dragon Tail, doing super effective damage against the Dragon type Pokemon. And then we're going to have the Politoed in the back, which then can hopefully clean endgame, which I would love to see, because a Bubble and Weather Ball damage is adding up quite fast, and Weather Ball got buffed again 2 seasons ago. It's a fantastic Pokemon here for that kind of job, but you just have to set it up right. And it is set to run Mud Shot on PvPog, and I just don't agree with that because you're resisted by all of the bug type Pokemon, and Bubble just does more damage. And so yeah, this is going to be it for my 10 teams for this meta. Let me know down below what you think about this meta. And again, there's very likely going to be an updated version of this one in a week. So definitely stay tuned for this one. Subscribe to the channel, of course. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video and if you watched until now. And I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.